Hope everyone's doing good. It's been a minute since I've seen everyone. Good to see you all so far. I'm glad to catch you up on a few things since the last time we spoke. I was doing some videos from my car, and then I had some people let me know, maybe doing it in the car isn't the best thing. Maybe you should try to switch things up. Maybe get a get a designated place. So this is what I'm trying out. Since moved into my place, set up some things. Maybe it's better on my home setup. Hey, move. All right.
Retracing Odysseus' journey over land and sea, all the way here to Ithaca.
All right, this guy's talking way
And I
too
want
slow
to
for me.
highlight for you the Cyclops episode as one where you really see
Way
the
too
difference
slow.
between these two heroes. Now, these details are unfortunately omitted from Nolan's adaptation, but in the Cyclops episode, you see Odysseus use his superpower, his ability to
Yeah.
and you also see him commit a tactful blunder that will cause him unbounded suffering. And it's a scene whose full significance is only available in ancient Greek. So let me break this down.
All right, let's break it
The
down.
classical conception of the hero is known for his might. A Greek word for that is dia. Odysseus, on the other hand, is known for his cunning, and the word for that is met. That's going to be very important. The life of a private citizen. The wise
Whoa, whoa,
are
whoa.
is no longer Utis, but in the conditional sentence,
Hold on.
in the Cyclops cave, and he tells the Cyclops, "My name is Utis," and this has been
Yes. This is important.
translated as "My name is nobody" or "My name is no man." And he tells the Cyclops this because after he blinds the Cyclops, and the Cyclops calls out to his friend asks, "Well, who's hurting you?" And the Cyclops responds, "Utis is hurting." Okay, and the Cyclops friend here, nobody, no man is hurting. That's already very clever, and that's captured in English. This is what's not captured in English. His friends then say, "If nobody is hurting you, then it must come from Zeus. Just go back and say your prayers to Poseidon."
All right.
There, nobody is no longer Utis, but in the conditional sentence, it's meches. What does that sound like? That sounds like the word for intelligence. So in that conditional phrase, an ancient Greek speaker would not hear if nobody is slaying you, but if cunning is slaying you, then it must come from Zeus and go say your prayers. Cunning, of
Okay.
course, is slaying the Cyclops because cunning personified, which is Odysseus, is doing the act of blinding. Okay, so utis and metes both refer to nobody and no man. In English, it's translated the same, but the utis is used in indicative sentences, whereas metes is used in the conditional. That's an extremely clever wordplay. It's not just clever, there's a deeper significance here, which is that it reveals who Odysseus is and what metes consists of. Just being able to be nobody, utis, does not make you clever yet. But being able to take on, to become anyone, the potential, the conditional metes, that is the constitutive quality of cunning.
I gotta admit, yeah, definitely very cunning in this story. uh, can't believe he cuts that out of the movie. But anyway,
Odysseus is able to embody, lie, deceive, and become any identity that he wants, whether that's horse for the Trojans, whether that's a beggar for the suitors, or whether that's a noble stranger for the Persians. This is Odysseus' superpower, his ability to lie, as a trickster, and to don on new identities. Okay, so let's briefly go back to Achilles' Odysseus. Can you
let's go
imagine
back.
Achilles hanging in that horse with Odysseus? Can you imagine Achilles telling anyone, "My name is nobody, I am a no man"? Can you imagine Achilles disguising himself as a beggar for days while he's being insulted the way Odysseus did when he went back? You can't. Achilles and Ilias says, "I hate, like the gates of hell, people who say one thing and mean the other." He's constitutionally incapable of lying, certainly of giving up his identity. And the very first line of the Iliad.
I hate that too, man. Say what you mean. Too many people nowadays. Like straight to your face.
You're given the name of Achilles. That's what's important. How does the first line of the Odyssey begin? Andem moi en epemusa politro pontos mala pola blank. Sing to me news of a man, or even a man of many ways, unnamed, who was made to wander greatly. Odysseus' name does not even appear until the 21st line of the Odyssey. Odyssey is telling you you're going to get a very, very different hero in Odysseus than Achilles. Being willing to become to nobody, to suspend his heroic identity, gives Odysseus a kind of flexibility that Achilles never had. Because the more you announce,
Okay.
I am XYZ, this is who I am, the more the world is going to box you in. But here's the problem. It's an internal contradiction, internal tension within Odysseus.
That's another reason thing. Like I never wanted to say, like, you know what? I'm a rapper. I am a rapper. No, I consider myself an artist. I never wanted to be put into a box. Like I can do whatever I think about, any creative endeavor I have, I can do. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. Yeah, I can do this one thing, but that's not all I can do. Anyway,
Himself. He can't be Mr. Utis, Mr. Nobody forever, because he too is a hero. The bird wants his Kleos, his glory. And there's no way for your name to live on if you're Mr. Nobody forever. And so he commits, I think, one of the biggest tactical blunders in all the Odyssey. When he sails away safely from the Cyclops, yelled back to Cyclops, if anyone asks you who blinded you, tell them it was Odysseus, raider of cities, son of Laertes, whose home is in. He gives the Cyclops a mailing address, effectively, for curses. And lo and behold,
it's like, hey, this is me.
it says,
I did that.
Odysseus, raider of cities, son of Laertes, who lives in it. It was because Odysseus couldn't keep his mouth shut that all of his crew were killed. He himself almost died, and his homecoming was terribly delayed. This is the internal tension between the tricksters Utis and Metes, as well as the hero's need for Kleos. And this is also the difference between Achilles and Odysseus. But before I can render judgment on who the greater hero is, I have to tell you a bit more about Odysseus' cunning, about his superpowered lying, lest you get the wrong impression. After the time of Homer, Odysseus' cunning and ability to lie has been viewed with suspicion, if not downright condemnation. The philosophers started looking like sophistry, the Christians it looked like sin, and to the Romans who traced their lineage back to Aeneas and the Trojans, it was the reason why they lost their The epithet that Virgil gives his Ulysses is no longer Polypropos, right? The man of many ways, cunning, wily Odysseus. It is dreadful, deceitful Odysseus. And so this idea of deceitful Odysseus has been a dominant strand of Odysseus' perception after the age of Homer. But now I want to tell you a bit about the other side, about lying not only as a skill, but as a fundamental institution. In fact,
Yeah, I'd say definitely lying is an institution. Just look at any politician. Oh man. Anyway,
there's been a lot of anthropological work that shows how in remote village cultures, lying was an institution. It didn't have the same kind of negative moral valence as it does today, both in antiquity and even in some remote village cultures today. Okay? So these anthropologists report that parents would lie to their children in these cultures until they didn't know what they were supposed to believe, until the children always had their guard up. And vice versa, the children would learn to lie and deceive their parents. So eventually they're successful, and if the parents catch them, they would both be, how dare you, but also attaboy, that you learned an important life skill. One of these anthropologists reports to encounter two shepherds, and they could talk for dozens of minutes just to deny each other the simple pleasure of knowing where the other came from, where they were going, and what they were up to that day. Okay, so the conversation would be something like this. The first shepherd would say, I went to field A today with my flock, even if he went to field B. And the other shepherd would say, oh, I also went to field A, even if he completely went to a different field, field C. And I went to field A, did you see the fire there? Or did you see the dead falcon there? This trying to make the other divulge as much as possible while concealing as much as possible for yourself. And to lie in this way to one's community, to one's friends, to one's kinsmen was not considered a sin. It was not considered morally corrupt. It was an institution. It was a skill. It was a friend choosing. Right? And so the obvious question was, why did they do this? It was because in these remote village cultures, relationships ended with the village, with the community. And therefore, every foreigner, there was no pre-established relationship as there are, for example, in cosmopolitan cities. Every foreigner is potentially hostile and a threat. And the way that you can both maintain civility while also keeping your guard up is to invent these false identities in order to play these games to get the other to divulge as much information about them while protecting and concealing as much information about yourself.
you know, that practice hasn't went away. I think people still do this nowadays. I know, heck, I still do this. Like, if I'm meeting someone random, I don't know them. Yeah, I'll tell them like a little bit about myself. Maybe I'll tell them who I really am. Most likely I will. But as far as deeper details, I'll just give them kind of surface level things, or I'll make stuff up if it's really kind of like I'm say I'm on vacation or something. Definitely not going to give them, oh, here's my whole life story. No, I'm going to tell them maybe what I think they want to hear partly. I'll let them talk first because people love to talk. So once they talk and say a little bit about themselves, then I'm thinking like, okay, here's what I could bullshit you about. Anyway,
Merely about xenophobia, right? The fear of foreigners. Why do you have to do this to members of your own community, to members of your own family members? Because they're practicing around. You need the kids to be trained that they don't trust anyone growing up. They're ready when they're encountering a foreigner or they themselves are foreign. The implication when you lie to your family is, hey, I got you this time, but I don't mean any harm. But if I did mean harm, you would have been screwed. So you got to keep your guard up. Now, if it's the foreigner that makes this institution necessary, I think you can get a sense of why the traveler and the liar, the deceiver, is so intimately connected in the Greek mind. The first two descriptive words in Odyssey, one is Polypropon, man of many ways, cunning, deceiving almost. One is Plankton, he who was made to wander. Odysseus' identity is primarily two things: as a traveler, as a wanderer, and as a
damn.
deceiver, as something very cunning. This is why Hermes is the god of both travelers and thieves. It is travel, it is Odysseus' wanderings that makes his utis, his metas, possible. Travel is what makes a whole new degree of lying possible. Because suddenly, if you're in a foreign land without any relations, you're able to take on a radically new identity, as Odysseus often does, and not just lie about, for example, where you're taking your flock today. But travel is also what makes this kind of lying necessary. If you aren't within your close relations that you can trust, you need to create identities in order to protect yourself, in order to conceal certain bits of information. And so you lie to conceal, to protect yourself, but you also lie to reveal, to test things about the other person, to get them to reveal who they actually are. And the pinnacle of this kind of ritual is called theosophy. This is when a Greek god would come down disguised as a stranger in human form and test their host, and then an epiphany happens, the god reveals himself or herself, and then punishes the host or rewards the host according to their actions. Here's how Jesus, on the paraphrase here, whatever you do, the least among you do to me, and so we have to treat every human with respect. That is a Christianized form of Greek theosophy. And in ancient Greek culture, the possibility of theosophy elevates the stakes of Xenia, right, the guest host relation. For example, within the Odyssey, when Athena visits Olympus, disguised as Mentees, she is the one doing the testing how good a host of Olympus is. Now, going back to Odysseus, he actually.
That kind of makes a little bit of sense. You know, like why are they going to show you exactly who they are? Especially like when they go back and they talk about like, oh, the goddess of wisdom. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It would make sense for her to come as something other than what she really is. Demons? Anyway.
Takes on the role of God, the Odyssey, in many episodes in Homer's Odyssey. For example, the Cyclops episode, the reason he ends up in the Cyclops cave is because he says he wants to test and see what kind of people live on this island.
Hmm.
But the most radical and total form of testing must be towards the end of this book. He's back here in Ithaca, and he's testing everyone here. He's testing Penelope, he's testing his previous slaves and servants, and of course his suitors. And what enables this testing to happen is his metas, is him lying and taking on new identities. By pretending to be just a beggar, he can see better and more clearly the true character of the people that he's interacting with. And so lying is not only connected to one core aspect of Odysseus' character, his traveling, like we just discussed, it's also connected to this other defining characteristic, which is his love for knowledge. Paradoxically, it is Odysseus' ability to lie and therefore to test people under a variety of different circumstances that facilitates his ability to acquire knowledge of other men. But
Smart man. Anyway, yeah, I do that too with people. Like, say I was at a show one time, and then this one guy, he was the promoter, cool dude. He's not with us no more, but he would tell me things all the time like, "Oh yeah, this and that, blah blah blah," and he'd be like, when it came time for me to tell him stuff, I'm like, man, this guy's full of shit. So I'd kind of tell him a mix of what he wanted to hear and kind of real stuff like about me. Yeah. But as I got to know him more, I kind of told him more of what's real. But yeah, this guy's spot on, man.
Lying goes far beyond protecting yourself or doing things about the other, getting knowledge. It is a way of life. It is a habit. It is an institution. In the same way, today we might make crass jokes about our friends. We might roast them in their face as a kind of verbal combat. Lying also was a cultural form that was ingrained in habit. Because otherwise, there's certain episodes of Odysseus' lying and testing that you just cannot explain. For example, he's told on very good account his father, Penelope, and the swineherd are all very loyal, and he proceeds to test them regardless. This only makes sense if lying, like roasting your friends, is a kind of playful sport. There's almost an encouraged fun. There's a certain beauty that comes out of Odysseus, where he's able to make the swineherd do whatever he wants and gain the kind of verbal superiority of the swineherd. And then there are other people like Penelope who can go toe to toe with Odysseus, right? The swineherd is like a friend that you can just roast for days on end and they have no good combat. Whereas Penelope is the friend where you can just roast each other for days on end. In fact, she gains eventually verbal superiority in this institution of lying and testing over Odysseus in that famous bedroom scene, right? So after Odysseus kills the suitors, they meet, and she's like, "Is this really Odysseus? I'm gonna have to test him." How does she test him? With a lie. She makes the offhanded remark to her servant, "Go pull out our marriage bed," right? And Odysseus is furious because the marriage bed is supposed to be built on this immovable olive tree root. The fact that it can be moved means that some man strong enough, viral enough, must have went into the bedroom and therefore violated the sanctity of her bed. Of course, this was a lie, but this was a lie in order to test it. And when Odysseus found out that it was a lie, he reacted the same way the parent in the remote village culture would. He wasn't furious. He was like, "That's my girl. That's my cunning wife." And I think the reason that Odysseus loves Penelope over all the possible princesses and goddesses that wanted to stay with him forever is because that she could match him in his cunning, in his ways. Of course, just like telling crass jokes, just like roasting your friends all day, this can go way too far. Okay, seeing Laertes, his dad, he's already killed the suitors, knows his dad is loyal. There's no reason to test him. There's no functional reason whatsoever. He still deliberates. He's like, "Should I lie to my dad?" He does, and he immediately regrets it because his dad is sobbing, he's crying. This is like when you roast a friend and you go way too hard and it's crying. And so he immediately apologizes, reveals who he is. All of this is to say, Odysseus' lying from our context might appear to be simple, might appear to be immoral, but in his context, he was simply perfecting institutional form that was core to a way of life. But
Especially back then, I'm like, man, you don't know people. Like, people grow, they change the way they look. Like, this guy's gone for what, 20 years? A lot of people probably forgot what he looked like. He's coming back. Yeah, you got to kind of do some recon, see what's up with the area, see how people have changed. Man, I know what I'm looking for, a woman. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
are moments where Odysseus cannot lie, not because he's unable to, but because his identity as a hero for this day. We talked about the Cyclops episode already, how he has to establish himself to claim his royalty. The same is true for him killing the suitors. Before he kills all the suitors, he announces who he is. And the same is true for the scene with the Phaeacians, right? So Odysseus is initially disguising himself as a stranger, not revealing who his identity is to the Phaeacians. And then he needs to establish who he is in order for his heroic tales to be disseminated amongst the realms of men. There's actually a big debate about how reliable the narrator is Odysseus and the stories he tells about the Phaeacians. Because keep in mind, much of the stories of Odysseus, we are told not by Homer directly, but by Odysseus to the Phaeacians, like the Cyclops. And so there's a big worry. Well, if he's such a great liar, maybe he embellished those stories in order to appeal to the Phaeacians, or maybe he completely made it all up. I don't think that's
true.
Number one, other
Yeah.
see that it is reliably narrated supports Odysseus telling the stories, but also in order to claim his heroic identity, he needs to put his true self out there. Okay, so this again is tension between the trickster and the classical hero. And what Odysseus does is that he absorbs the trickster identity into the heroic identity. In other words, he wins his Kleos by being Mr. Nobody. So we've explored this utis metis trickster part of Odysseus. We explore the part of his identity that he shares with Achilles, which is that of the classical hero. And this is what's going to take us back to this comparison. What the classical hero is a man of pain and suffering. That is to say, what defines the hero is his ability to both cause suffering to others and his ability to take on suffering himself. And you can see this in each of the three epic moments. When Odysseus goes from utis metis nobody into his heroic identity, some great amount of pain is caused to somebody. Okay, so in the Cyclops episode, he causes himself a lot of pain. In the suitors episode,
Yeah.
he kills all the suitors. In the Phaeacian episode, right before he's able to reveal who he is, you're told he's weeping uncontrollably like a woman from hearing these stories of the Trojan Wars. Odysseus, as Utis, as Mr. Nobody, can prevent himself and shield himself from a lot of pain. And he's also able to limit some of the collateral damage. He can still cause pain if he wants to, for example, like the Cyclops, but he himself is protected. But Odysseus, the hero, once that heroic identity comes before, he is just a whirlwind of pain, causing pain to everyone around, and not just his enemies. It's not just the pain of the Cyclops, not just the pain of the Trojans he's caused, but to his own friends, his own family, and his own side. Think about the pain that Odysseus causes Penelope and Laertes for waiting for years. When Odysseus goes into the underworld, his mother literally tells him, "I died of grief, waiting for you." Think about the two generations of men in the kingdoms that Odysseus rules in Ithaca and the region surrounding him have died. One generation following him to Troy, not coming back. The second generation, the great houses sending their sons as suitors for Penelope, killed by Odysseus. Even the Phaeacians, who were helping Odysseus, they suffered greatly. The Phaeacian boat that dropped Odysseus here in Ithaca gets turned to stone on its journey back. And it's not exactly clear, but Poseidon was threatening to drop a mountain on top of all Phaeacia because they helped Odysseus. Everything Odysseus taught hero, not his trick friend Utis, turned to pain. And
Yo, talk about generational beef, man. Oh,
exact same can be said about Achilles, right? Think about the first part of Achilles. Thing Muse, the wrath of Achilles, son of Peleus, that put thousandfold pain on the Achaeans, on the Greeks, on his own side, right? Not even to mention all the pain and suffering he put on the Trojans. This is Muse's point. The classical hero, okay, the Homeric hero, good is simply power, without much consideration of whether that power is used to help hurt one's friends, hurt one's enemies, hurt oneself. If you were powerful, you were a hero, you were good, and bad was something weak. It wasn't until Christianity that we started differentiating helping others, the power to help, the power to hurt, the power to hurt your enemies justly, the power to hurt your friends unjustly. In fact, viewing classical hero as this man of pain gave me a new lens to view Christ as reworking this Homeric ideal. Instead of Christ as being a man who both gives and receives pain, Christianity only takes on this latter part. Christ is someone who receives pain, that's a heroic ideal, but not someone who gives pain, right? And so this Christian ideal can be viewed as a reworking of this heroic ideal as a man who both gives and receives pain. Because a hero is a man of hatred, and if you look closely,
All right.
like in their names.
Hero.
Achilles can be read as a combination
All right.
of grief, distress, and louse, fighting man. So Achilles' name literally means grief of the fighting man. Odysseus' name, we're literally told in the Odyssey where it comes from. His grandfather gives his name after hatred, or Buso, because his grandfather tells us he was so hated. What about the pronunciation of Odysseus' name? This is where we get Ulysses from. Well, Ule means star. Okay. Now, just to be clear, all these are folk etymologies. There's not necessarily a clean etymological tree there, but to a Greek speaker, when you hear Ulysses, you would hear Ule with the star. Of course, one of Odysseus' defining moments in his life, his coming of age, was when he was hunting his uncles. The boar scars him by penetrating his thigh before Odysseus is able to kill him. And that scar is a mark of identity for Odysseus. It is the mark through which his servants, his family recognize him. So even what the name tells you is that Ulysses, Odysseus means hatred, it means scar. That scar is a physical symbol of pain, and that is an identity marker for Odysseus. Okay, so to conclude, the classical definition of hero is just the force of nature that unleashes their power indiscriminately on their friends, on their enemies, on themselves. That's who Odysseus is. Odysseus is that, plus this utis mitis trickster identity. And now we're back into the motivating question. Who is the greater hero, Achilles or Odysseus? I think you're asking who is the more classical hero. It has to be Achilles, because Achilles is known for Via, his might, and Via is a much more...
Well, I think that's enough of that one. Yo, so what do y'all think? Who's the better hero? Shoot. I think if you're talking just straight up hero, like maybe you're talking about Achilles, but I don't think you could call him a definite hero per se. But I like the story of uh, Odysseus because, for one, his cunning and the way he handles things. Man, when he got back to the palace, it was on. Man, poor guys. Well, anyway, I think we're going to end it right there. Huh. Let's go back to the settings. Yeah, I think that was a good. I think that was a good one. Like, love him or hate him, it was definitely a good story. Let me know if you watched the Odyssey. A lot of things that happened in the Odyssey, maybe they were changed. Like when I first pulled up, they had Travis Scott, bomb, bomb, bomb on the table. Hey, here's the story of Odysseus. And then he starts going on, and then once he gets to the Trojan War part, then Penelope and Hathaway, she's like, "Stop! I don't want to hear no more." And then he stops, you know. And then it breaks into what the whole situation is like. You see all the suitors, you see Telemachus, his son there, and then it goes into the next part of the story where it's following Odysseus and his crew. But the way this movie's shot, it's like from this point to this point, this point to this point, a lot of back and forth. Some people don't like that. Like for me, it was kind of easy to follow, but a lot of people maybe it wasn't so easy to follow. I like the story though. Some things that I didn't like were uh, a lot of the things that were portrayed. Like unless you read the book, then you wouldn't know what was going on. I know I got to the part where the underworld was taking place, and I'm like, I'm expecting them to like go into the underworld. Like they're just going to a dark beach that still looks misty. Maybe there's black sand or whatever. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, it looks like a beach. And then they slaughter the animal or whatever, and then they put the blood into the bowl so then the dead can drink from the blood. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, I definitely didn't imagine this scene like this, but okay. And then the Cyclops scene, that was another one that kind of irked me a little bit. You know, just the way things were happening. You know, they they plucked the guy's eye out, and at no point does he ever mention who he is or who's there. Like, for all the Cyclops knows, this barrel, like, yeah, he got some new food in this house, and like he's munching down. Like, he's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it's never really presented like, hey, we are here and we did this to you. Like, he gets blinded, and then next thing you know, he's on the floor crying, and then he's calling out, like doing his prayer, and then the next morning they're talking about, oh, we're gonna go through. We're gonna go through when he opens up the cave so that the sheep go out. Well, they're all sneaking out, And then Odysseus, he shoots the arrow at him. And then it's just like he starts running after them, even though he's blind. And I'm like, hey, yo, okay, if he prayed for whoever to like smite these guys that did this to him, one, he didn't know who did it. And then two, he's running after them and then they get into their boat and stuff. And I'm just like, dang, like they really did this to this guy. Like they didn't even have to really do that. And then another thing that was kind of funny to me is the kind of the way they portrayed some of the things going on. Like when it got to the Giants, that one was funny to me. I was like they pull up thinking they're gonna have some rest and relaxation, and then these guys just like straight hammer them. But anyway, yeah, it's a fun movie. Suspend your belief in things. Don't go in there thinking, okay, you already know the story. Just go in there blind. Have zero expectations. If you have any expectations, you're probably gonna be sad. Anyway, good to see you all again. This has been another episode of Kevin Prolix TV, and I'll see you on the next one.